Welcome to another episode of Now I'm Mad. But I'm not mad today. I don't think Nico's mad either because we have our next guest on the podcast. Sorry you weren't the first. We were supposed to record on Tuesday. I promised him that he was going to be the first guest, but then Dylan was like, "Oh, let's."
That's what they all say.
Yep. I'm down to podcast today because he shows no emotion, as you can tell from the last episode. But Omar Isuf, an OG in the YouTube fitness space.
Uh-oh.
My boss.
Oh, yikers.
This will be reflected upon your next evaluation.
I'm going to get fired right after this episode. But
What's a more polite way of saying fired?
you're going
Not let go, but like...
I was actually going to say, yeah, you're going to get let go.
No,
As long as they dropped.
Let's go even nicer. I want you to have the opportunity to pursue better opportunities.
Therefore, you're off the team.
Yeah.
But Omar, it's good to have you here, man.
Great to have you.
Why-
Thank you for having me on the Stimmed Out Timmed Out podcast.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for the 2% of people
Yeah, I
that
was about to
don't
say,
know about you?
Like, who
Like,
doesn't
bro,
know him? Like,
Well, no, the only reason is because, like, it's almost like the Ray Williams thing that I said the other day. So, long story short, there was someone that posted on Threads a couple weeks ago, and they talked to this, average lifter in their gym, and they were like, "Do you know who Ray Williams is?" And they had no idea.
Yes. Yep.
So I don't know if it's like the same thing where there's that new audience of people in the fitness space, and they might not know who Omar is. There's even some people that don't know who Max is.
I'd love to know more about Omar anyways, so I'm down.
Yeah.
Nico, what he's trying to do in a very polite way, he's trying to insinuate I have aged myself out. And so the new audience is blissfully unaware and probably better
That was so
off.
rude, Tim.
Yeah, I get it.
That's so rude.
I am a content creator on YouTube. Been doing it for a couple of years. Plan on doing it for a little bit more. And I'm here just to spread positivity. It's kind of like my catchphrase I say to everyone is live, laugh, love. Right?
You know what I'm laughing about? You know that TikTok that I sent you a while back? It's like the Airbnb that says live, laugh, love on every single corner of the building. I don't know why I just thought about that.
Dude, we have ADHD.
Yeah, no, it's
that's
terrible.
pretty much what it is.
Diagnosed by Eric Helms. In a car ride on the way back from Metroflex, he revealed, I don't think this is, I think he'd be comfortable with this, that he suspects he may have it, a mild form. And then we started discussing it, and then he started diagnosing people in the car whether or not they had it. So
I'm convinced everybody has a little bit of ADHD in them. It just makes
Yeah.
life a little bit more interesting.
I have a lot of it.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Nico, one of the questions that he asked where he said where he knew he had it, he said about himself, he said one of the fundamental ones is, do you find that if you're interested in something, if you're passionate, you could really do a deep dive and you want to dedicate all your time towards that, almost obsessive or a hyper focus, and if something does not align with yourself, that is quite laborious and you don't want to do it in no kernel of your body, like you're like fundamentally opposed to it? And I was like, yeah. And everyone in the car said, yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess.
Wait, who
right.
doesn't feel that way,
And so
though?
that's what I was going to say is like not what Eric said, to be clear. But some of them, when you start doing some of those tests online, you're like, I feel like this could apply to a lot of people.
There's a lot of confirmation bias. That's pretty much what
Like,
it is.
all of the above, basically. Like,
Yeah. Well, Nico, you have the list.
I'm
Because we came here prepared.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is another episode of Don't Be Sour is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you don't have your notepad.
I know that was,
Did you watch that? Did you watch
Where's
that
your
episode?
iPad? Yes, I did. And I DM'd Omar the second it happened. I was like, there's no way he said half of this stuff, dude.
Well, it's not even, no, like the part that I laughed about the most, because I knew it was going to happen. It's just like when it actually happened, I cracked up. I was sitting with Joseph off to the side, and I was just trying my best not to laugh, but Omar brought out his notepad and he was like, yeah, I've got all these notes that I was writing on the way here. And it was just this big thing in bold letters, you are a wiener. And he can't do that to us now, but we can.
No, I like you boys, and I am actually honored to be on here.
So
thank
we're
you
not
for having me.
wieners. Let's
Yeah.
go.
No, we're still weenies.
Imagine I just showed him my
winners.
notepad.
There's winners and wieners, and unfortunately, you're winners.
Imagine I just showed him like my notes and it's just like you are a wiener on it.
Shout out to Young Blood in the house, managing things, holding it down.
Holding down the fort.
Actually, before we get into that, because he visited Ronnie Coleman yesterday.
Yeah, buddy.
How was that?
It's good. So
It's a good impersonation.
Shout out. Yeah, I put my heart and soul into that one. You know, I want to say that first off, fuck Jesse James West. Just in the sense that, and that's going to be the top.
Damn, why?
No, but I just mean just how I viewed it personally, and this is all my I should say this before we go. And you want a hot take to use as a clip? Here you go. We watched his collaboration with Ronnie Coleman, who is absolutely a legend in the sport of bodybuilding. He's contributed much. He's a hero to many, and just the way that he was interacting with him in his most recent video, I kind of found deplorable. Whereas a little bit like it reminded me, quite frankly, of like exploitation, where he was a prop. He was like a toy. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, buddy. He's like, are you going to live for the rest of your life? And like Ronnie Coleman, like he's kind of like, he's tired, like he's 59, he's had his back surgeries. He's not here to be a plaything for your YouTube content. And like he started putting his hands on him, like where he put his hands on his head. Were you there with me, Tim?
I was, I was watching
and he
that.
Put his hands on Ronnie's head, and he put his forehead, and he started yelling. And like, I don't know, where I come from, like if you do those things to an elder, right, like an elder statesman in the space, it's just flat out disrespectful. And then he put his hand on top of Ronnie's head at one point. Anyways, all that to say that it was an extreme honor also visiting Ronnie Coleman. I have to give a shout out to Big J for organizing it. And actually, I was pleasantly surprised because he was able to share some stories, and he was enthused. Like when I saw Nico that video, and he was giving one-word answers, I understand now why he was giving one-word answers. He probably didn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Wait, is this the video where he's like, where Jesse tricked him with the weights?
He did a follow-up video.
That's also like.
I've watched that video.
Yeah.
I've watched that. I haven't seen the new one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
What happened in that one?
Tim, in your opinion, we only watched with you the first 4 minutes, and then I think with Joseph, I watched the remainder. I was trying to prepare. I was like, oh, look, where's Ronnie at now? I've watched, the King documentary with him.
Yeah.
I know him from Big J. I know his documentaries from before.
Yeah. So the main point of that video, because Jesse James, if he didn't already compete, he was in prep for a bodybuilding show, and he's like, I'm going to train just like Ronnie Coleman. So we bought parachute pants, he dressed up just like him, all that other stuff, and he was training like Ronnie, but at the same time it's not the same, and it's just like a plain over exaggeration of it, like a mockery of it, I would even say. But yeah, like I watched that video and I physically cringed at it.
Yeah,
I'm sure Jesse's a nice kid and everything, but it's just like Omar said, there's just certain things that you don't do, especially with someone that's that respected in the industry.
Did Tim tell you that I went to college with him?
I did not. Nico, if you don't mind me saying, you're 24, right? So
I'm 25.
25. So he's 23. I found out. So maybe the prefrontal cortex, still developing.
Yeah.
It is a thing. Go ahead, man.
So there's this little story. One of my best friends from high school, he went to the same college as me, and he was on the lacrosse team for the college that I went to. And Jesse was the goalie for that college team. And whatever it is, so a while back, I was asking my friend, I was like, yo, what do you think you can get Jesse to come to game day or something? And then he messages Jesse, and Jesse was responding yeah, I'll do it if the dude eats dog food in a video and sends it to me. And I'm like, all right, dude, I'm not eating dog food. I'm not doing that.
No, Nico, sorry, share that story again. I almost cannot believe what I just. Now keep in mind,
I'm not lying. I'm gonna be 100% there too.
Nico, I think you're a trustworthy person. Like your story, I believe it's 100% true. I have removed myself the last 3 years from the space, and it's you participated in a bit social media is not even close to an approximation of reality. It's a bit of a funhouse mirror. But just say that again,
dude. I did you see the little thing in his brain, just stop. Yeah. So I'll repeat what I said for the listeners on Spotify and YouTube. So I asked my friend that his friend also. And I was like, what do you think you can do to get Jesse inside of the gym so we can collab with him, do a video with him, something like that? And he messages Jesse, and Jesse responds to him saying, yeah, I'll do it if the dude sends me a video of him eating his dog food.
No, think about how demeaning that is. And maybe that's another word I'd use.
After that, I was like, no.
Well, good for you. Is that is so bizarre. But in a way, I would describe that video. You can only imagine that's what made the final cut of him being flat out disrespectful to a legend. In my personal opinion, the optics of it. And the worst part, because I was raised on these songs, I know these songs, I know YouTube, I know social media, the smoke and mirrors that go on behind the scenes, and how the brain works in terms of the formation of said content, that you're only seeing a small fraction of that. And I think the story that you just shared is kind of emblematic of exactly what I was talking about. So anyways, the reason why I said that is, one, to give you a little blurb for this video, but also two, because for Ronnie Coleman, I was pleasantly surprised, honestly. And Brian Dobson, the owner, gave us an hour and a half of his time, was extremely generous, contrast the two, where like Brian Dot, he's training all these legends like Branch Warren, like these like legitimate guys that have made their mark in bodybuilding, right? Like a separate niche. Super cool stories where he first started training. His first program was from Tom Platz. Like I didn't even know. Like just, anyways, crazy things. Told us some Ronnie stories. Ronnie gave us we said we were gonna get 15 minutes. He gave us more than that. Like felt like all those sorts of things. And I was just thrilled to have the opportunity, and it was amazing to see also the young blood Joseph. We were there. Where he had to get B-roll, and when he was filming Ron, like he was excited to film it because this, like, you recognize you're entering a like almost, let's say if there is a spiritual component to lifting, like the development it has upon yourself, then there are sacred places. And so Metroflex in its own way is one of those locations. And so being able to participate in that or merely be there observing it is a special moment. So it was interesting because I didn't know if it was going to happen. And, I would identify more as a powerlifter than a bodybuilder. I don't mean anything by that, but just that for some people there'd be even more reverence. But even myself being somewhat of an outsider, but still respecting Ronnie, it was super cool. And fun fact for both you boys, he started, I don't know if you're aware of this, like, yeah, he was a powerlifter, but he really loved powerlifting. And it was Brian Dobson, the owner of Metroflex, that essentially had to convince him over a period of days to even try his first bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
That Ronnie just loves
I did not
legitimate
know
lifting
that.
heavy ass weights, which is super cool. Like he's about, some people are about the life because it's transactional. It's an extraction. They want to participate now on social media, Nico. It's like, you can do this thing, you can make money because there's some sort of end outcome that's an extreme form of monetization. Like I'm sure a bodybuilder, yeah, they want to win Mr. Olympia and win money. But for them, it's kind of like, you have to be about the life because that amount of suffering, it ain't normal.
Yeah,
So
no.
Ronnie's about the lifting, and that you can always respect. It transcends different barriers of where we're at.
Could you imagine if Brian never told him to switch to bodybuilding?
Yeah.
The entire industry would have been different.
Yeah, that would've been
At least I
crazy.
feel. Because like it's not so much that Ronnie was like the pioneer for training with intensity, but it's like everybody has seen those videos of Ronnie like deadlifting. I think he deadlifted 800 for 2, right? Squatted 800 for 2. It's like those wouldn't have existed. It's actually pretty crazy.
With the weightlifting belt too.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Deep in like just
Imagine if he had intersleeves.
yeah.
Bro.
Crazy.
Hey, I have a funny tangent, maybe to bring up later about insert sleeves from a conversation. I want to know what you boys think in terms of how much it adds. But I also want to say I don't want to be that like old head in the game where it's like the new person who's 23, like saying like fuck this dude. I do think there's people putting out genuinely good content.
Oh, yeah.
And let me be clear, like I always believe in the future of the next generation. Like I saw recently speaking about old school inspirations, like Max Taylor, like his content, like I like his content. I also like he's kind of emulating in ways. I think his current inspirations, Mike Menser, even has the glasses. But I think that's what, like, there are people doing it right. It's just like when we participated, 2023 reminds me, Nico, of 2012, where there's a good mix of like kind of shit tier content producers and then people trying to do the damn thing. And I would say it was perhaps stale in a certain way, but like in 2017, 2018, where it really seemed like a balance of a lot of people putting out like, Tim's here producing content. You have like Alan Thrall, you have Jeff Nippard, you have all these other channels just like really influencing the culture, I would say, in a huge net positive way. And so when you just see some of these videos, I was trying to prepare myself for the Ronnie Coleman. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but you kind of made a point at this earlier, but because we know what goes on behind the scenes, all the smoke and mirrors and stuff, just whenever I see this type of content get produced, I can't help but feel irritated with it. And it's weird because we have to coexist in this space with everybody. Like, we have to be cordial. But behind the scenes, for a lot of people, we're just like, fuck these people. We really don't like them. We don't want them here. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is complicated because I think everyone's on their own particular journey. I do think about my earlier content, and you want to talk about cringe. That's why when I made a video about either like TikTok, this is like a year ago, and I spoke about the different, once again, reward mechanisms. So on TikTok, as far as I understand it with the algorithm, you should produce a decent amount of content because it's kind of like shooting darts at a wall where something's going to stick. But sometimes the thing that you put in the most amount of effort where you're like, this is a representation of me, my art form of Nico. Like, I'm very proud of this, like, particular TikTok. It won't do well. So it rewards more volume than it does, or like being on trend, as opposed to coming up with your own singular voice that's unique. It's like, oh, that's a Tim video.
Yeah.
That's a Nico video. Anyways.
I think that's the more irritating part. The amount of effort that goes into today's content creation versus, you know, us back in like 2013, 2014. It's like you could just become an overnight sensation, you know.
I would blame TikTok on that, to be like completely honest. Like, it lowered the attention spans of everyone, so like that would degrade the quality of the content.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally 5-second reels, like the one I made today, like the best ones that you freaking do, because everyone's attention span is like the shortest it's ever been.
Yeah. And it's also like the type of content that everybody's consuming. Like, you take you remember Scooby, right?
Mm-hmm. Scooby,
like,
1961.
Like Scooby, Twin Muscle Workout, the Hodge Twins.
I love the Hodge Twins.
I mean, they've kind of gone off the rails with
Yeah,
it. With that.
When they wore Twin Muscle Workout.
Yeah.
But it's just like the majority of the and we actually talked about this the last time you visited, but there were people making like shit posting content, but because it was kind of being drowned out by the informative content that was getting put out, now it's kind of the inverse, where it's just skits in the gym. It's like, oh my god, this girl sat on my face when I was benching. And then you take, like, even with us, when we try to put out informative content, that gets drowned out by this, you know, low attention span, shit quality content. And it's very instant gratification for these influencers, and they get a big head because of it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fine. Like, it in sort of some ways, it's always been that way. I don't think it should deter us. I think what is most important, probably something that, shout out to Alan Thrall, the one time we were having a discussion, this is years ago, something that he does. He creates what he's proud of, he posts it, and then he doesn't check the metrics, where some people are obsessed, as maybe one should, just so you're tethered to an aspect of reality. Oh, I posted a video. Well, is it doing well? No. Okay, maybe what should I do? Because if you want to be viable in the space, you have to understand that. But once you've been participating for a period of time, intuitively you can know kind of what works, what doesn't. But the idea that the art comes first, and that's why I would use the act of content creation, true, where you have an authored, tailored vision towards something specific. It is a form of artistry. And so anyways, with Alan, I think most of all, you got to like raise your people up, put out the content you want, and then there's always been noise. There always will be noise. And as I do think there are more incentives for monetization, there will be more of what we're seeing. So it is inevitable. Does it make me jaded or any of those things? Not at all. I mean, like, there's, like, Tim knows this. I would say probably the worst year in fitness content would be like 2010, or like just like the proto years, because those that look the best, that screamed the loudest, that had the most simple rhetoric, appeal to the most amount of people.
Yeah.
And then the floodgates opened up. So I was like, actually, if we want to talk about the worst, like in the worst, really, was back then, yeah.
It's funny that you're talking about Alan, though, because like I saw Alan's page the other day. He's crushing it on YouTube. Like, there are these banger videos that like the first 2 days are getting like over 100K views. I'm like, oh my god, he's like, to this day is like still doing that well. It's insane.
Because Alan, you know what, I have to give more respect to Alan. Like, I know Alan personally. Like, he worked with like Rascal Fulfillment. I knew that before that, since 2016, so like 7 years. Alan is one of the very few, I could probably count them on my hand, where he cannot be bought and sold. He will only do things that he firmly believes. So he's ideologically pure, where all my heroes are born to lose, in the sense that they have this framework of understanding how things are, and they will adhere to that, and they will never compromise. And so Alan, what's so cool, Nico, is that he creates only content that he likes, and I think an audience over time can sense that. So there is a brand, in quotations, like if he is a brand, loyalty that he has earned over years and years of producing content.
That's hard.
And so I love to see that. And actually, like Alan, in ways, like I joked with him, like I because he just passed like my subscriber count. I was like, I'm gonna make a video about this. Like, I just want you, like, it's gonna be a call video and there's gonna be problems. But what I mean is that, like, he has paved his own path forward. No one had strongman content on that scale or level, and that's what I like to see. It's like when you discover a new artist and it just sounds so completely unique, and they have that voice. Alan has that voice, so I like to still see someone a decade into it doing the damn thing. Because Nico, we could, like, from our era, if we say people that were like semi-popular, let's say 2012 or whatnot forward, it's like there's probably, again, a handful that are still producing content. And maybe that's okay. Like, maybe there's only so much stuff you have to say, and then you just get the fuck out and that's it.
We're actually going to be talking about that in this later on in this list.
Let's go.
I wrote that near the middle of it, talking about the golden era of content creation.
Sure.
So we'll get back to that.
Yeah, wherever you boys want.
Let's start going down here. Well, we already talked about the current state of fitness. Nice.
Yeah.
Talk about what, Nico?
We the first thing I was going to talk about would be like the current state of like fitness,
Sure.
fitness content creation. We literally just talked about that. So
Well, the current state of fitness is never really the current state of fitness because I
Yeah.
feel like it changes every single day at this point. Like there was a period of time where it's like, 3-4 years goes by, nothing ever changes, but now it's like every single day, something different.
yeah, for sure.
But you could go down the list.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk about this one because you know the name of this podcast? It's called Now I'm Mad.
Yep.
And I purposefully like listed things that I know would make you mad.
Nice.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about this topic with you, and you have to give me like your complete and honest feedback to this. And don't hold back. The first thing I want to tell you is that I think everything you say about overhead press is completely overrated.
That's fair.
You didn't tell me this was gonna be on the list.
No. Every time I see Omar post a thread or like anything on his story about I'm like, nope, he's wrong.
That's
He's
fine.
wrong.
That's fine. You can have that. There's gonna be.
I'm
nothing
trying to
that's gonna
rile him
fall-
up, and he's just
there's
agreeing with
nothing
me.
that's
I'm like,
gonna fall between. You were perfect. I would say, why do you think that? So you want like biomechanically? Did you read Milo Wolf's post talking about the like side deltoid and like how and so like, just the angle and like the stretch position, length and partials and so forth. So do you think it's like a inferior movement as it relates to hypertrophy, or are you coming more from the position that it's transference for the bench press for like comp powerlifters?
So I'm not even talking in terms of like for bench or anything. Like throw powerlifting out the window.
Yeah.
I think overhead press is just extremely overrated in terms of building muscle mass, like functional strength. I think it's just like it definitely can hurt you more than it can help you.
Hurt in what way?
Like AC joint, for example, like that's something that's susceptible for injury on that lift in particular. Like I've seen a lot of people just attempt that into their powerlifting program and training, not even powerlifting, just bodybuilding training also, and like get hurt from it. Go really heavy on like, I think, do you count like military press, same thing as like overhead press? Or
You can, sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just feel like for hypertrophy reasons, like you mentioned before, like doing something more just like continued set of like raises.
Like
in
lateral
any
raises?
Any direction, yeah. So front raises too. On any angle, like on an incline bench or anything like that. I think that would be like a much more effective use of someone's time rather than wasting energy on the overhead press where they can just like get hurt, use more triceps than their delts.
But why do you think they could get hurt? Like, do we have evidence for this? Like,
Personally, no, I haven't looked
because
into the evidence.
What I would say, like, that is completely fine. I'd say the null hypothesis here should be that the overhead press is a good movement because I think that's an agreeable position to have. So that if you're challenging that position, if you have an extreme assertion, you need to provide an extreme level of evidence.
Yeah.
So that which is easily submitted can actually be easily dismissed then, a Carl Sagan ism. So I'd just say, like, if you say you're prone to injury, I'd want to see some of that information. If you say it's inferior for building muscle, like show me kind of the data, or like talk about it like biomechanically, like in terms of position or what have you. Like let me go on the opposite way. Let me take your position and let me argue in favor of it. So let me steel man it. The overhead press does have, in my opinion, one limitation because actually in terms of the movement itself, the structure and what you're doing with the shoulder and what the shoulder is intended to do, I think it puts it in a good position to be worked. Okay, the shoulder musculature, the traps, and so on and so forth. But the argument that you can make against it is that if you don't have overall, let's use that ephemeral phrase, stability, that actually there's a technique limitation, almost not quite the same to like a squat, performing a squat, where you can't reach like true functional failure utilizing some of the intended musculature like you would on something that's a little bit more easy perhaps to make sure you ensure failure, like a leg press. And so the variation that some people would advocate would be like a seated overhead press, something that's on a steep incline, so you're still high up, and that would produce better results. But again, I would say like this is, to me, I think something that I've observed, at least in the space, I'm not going to call it some of the people, is that I think some people feel they get a better pump doing something, or they maybe feel more stimulation. But in terms of the logical line of reasoning, in terms of why it's a superior movement, I don't think that is strong. And I think unless there's contrary evidence, it's kind of like when people said, bench press isn't a great chest movement. Like that is perfectly fine. And if you don't want to do the overhead press, that is very fair in terms of, once again, its overall transference to other movements. Again, I would agree with that statement. And I do think there could be some merit, especially in people that are more like bodybuilders, where if they want to do a variation where their legs, their core stability is not a consideration whatsoever, and they merely want to stimulate their traps and their like deltoids as well as a little bit of their traps and so like what's called like in the long position, go ahead. Like, yeah, you're not going to see me disagree with that. My bias in favor of it, everyone has a movement that they like.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way that you perform it, how it starts from a dead stop, and how it feels overall. We're on the bench press in ways you kind of, I don't know if you guys agree, you feel a little bit like a contortionist where you're performing. It's a very technical lift, which is very cool, especially when you work your way up, percolate your way up in terms of lifts, and that is fine. But you're lying down on a bench, like all these things. And
My bench is a leg press, so everyone knows that.
which is completely fine. And so I think a personal enjoyment does play consideration for me.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately when we're talking about apples to apples, so movements that are similar, and I would even say like a seated overhead press is quite analogous to standing overhead press, even if you don't have, like, even if you're shaking like a leaf, like you can't like, engage like the quads and the glutes, and you could use, let's say 30% more weight if you sit down, that it's apples to apples, and then it comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I think overhead press is, you can argue with me this too, the hardest compound movement.
Yeah, it depends. I think what I would agree with Nico for sure is that in terms of scaling the weight up, once you reach your point, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And it's not only a percentage thing, because some people have made the argument, let's say your overhead press is 200 pounds. So you increase your squat by 10%. Well, that if you're a 500-pound squatter, 500, 550, right? Okay. To increase your overhead press by 10% is 220 from that. So 200 pounds to 220. That sounds, now if we're talking proportionally, okay, that makes more sense. So a 5% increase, like increasing your squat by 10%.
Yeah.
How long do you think that would take you?
Now or before?
Let's say now.
10%, like
I mean, well,
Solid
like,
year
I
and a
would
half.
say like 3 years for that.
right?
You think
yeah,
so?
like
Right.
3 years for that. That's for me right now to go from like 270 to like
Basically 300.
yeah, like that'd take me a long time to get.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get that next year.
Yeah, and so if someone's been lifting for a long period of time, like we're talking about that extra 10%, well, now you don't have that feedback, that reward mechanism, like, oh, I trained really hard for it, and now like I hit the 5-pound PR, because there is a limit in terms of the weight that you can use. So, I get that. And then the other thing, let's go back to your point, is that why it probably was banned from the Olympics is that from like a testing standpoint, a lot of people were abusing the rules with the lean back, and as you get stronger, especially with like center of mass, like what's going to happen? Your body's going to shoot back, the bar is going to shoot kind of like out and up, and then that becomes harder, and it becomes essentially like almost like a standing incline press, which honestly for the upper pec fibers wouldn't be the end of the world. But all that to say that I think the standardization could be an issue. I do think there is an inherent difficulty, and I think like a lot of other movements, while you can maximize your strength in the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, I think the overhead press, there's an innate level built based upon how you're built, that there will be a far higher weight limiter.
100%.
Yeah.
So the main reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I specifically remember in 2014 there was like this series where like you and Matt Ogus were talking about overhead press a lot, and I literally did this in my program for like 6 months and ended up getting hurt at the end of it.
So I burned your ass. So
pretty
so
much.
the summation of your question is I hurt you, and now we're dealing.
Yeah,
now we're in therapy.
it's like full circle.
Yeah, like 9 years later.
Yeah, I'm
You
following
did this to
I had
me.
to clip on my Instagram. It's literally one of my
Nico,
first few posts on my
Nico,
Instagram.
I apologize, bro. That's what I wanted. I circle back. No,
So you've been waiting damn near 10 years to say this to
I
him.
have been waiting to say that to him.
Nico,
Finally,
I
get my
apologize,
let it all out.
Yeah, nothing's gonna flummox me, bro. Like we're straight chilling. Yeah, I think, and I think the separation overall from the space has been extremely healthy for me. There was nothing ever that was a problem, but even when we spoke about like the new generation and what they're doing, like some of the stuff could be an issue. At the end of the day, like I think perspective is very important, and I do remember 2011. So anyway, that's why it's not that I'm indifferent. There's a difference between being completely almost apathetic to a space and actually caring, but understanding, like contextualizing it, that at the end of the day, it's not like a big deal at all.
Yeah. Awesome. Fuck, Ash.
Let's go even hotter. Let's go even hotter, boy.
Getting hotter. Okay.
Get hot in her.
Okay. This is lukewarm, not really too hot.
So what was the overhead press?
Do we have a heat scale on
So
this?
is this the general format for overall guests where you try and put them in the like? Is it going to turn like what is like hot one style where you get them first comfortable, then uncomfortable, then you ask them the most?
See, that's actually not a bad idea.
Or
Yeah,
is
that's
it
a pretty
like,
good idea.
Like Kevin Hart then basically stole that idea, or like let's say leveraged it, where they're in a cold bath, then you ask those questions, and then so on and so forth.
First of all, I love cold baths. I've been taking them a lot.
Oh, you
saw
you
that.
literally just started that.
They're amazing.
Relax,
They're amazing.
dude. Next, you're gonna switch to weightlifting.
No, I'm not. Okay, let's go back to like a lukewarm and then back to another hot one.
All right,
Sounds
fine.
good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your favorite golden era content creators, and then tell me specifically who you want to see make content that fell off.
Yeah, it's a great question.
That's not too warm, right?
No, that's a chill.
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
cool question.
Yeah.
Ready for
Tim,
the next one?
let's get because I do want some Timothy participation here. Let's define some of the golden era.
Jason Blaha.
Yep. Jason. Wow.
Chelsea lifts, Nick Wright. Do you just want like everybody or people that have like stopped making content?
So we could agree upon. I'd say like
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Obviously Max, Christian, you, me, Olympus Iron. Remember Olympus Iron?
I talked to what's his name?
Oh, I forget. I go by people's online usernames.
Bob.
It is Bob.
Yeah, because we spoke about Dark Souls 2 a bunch. I got into like Demon Souls in 2011, and then I think it was right around when DS2 came out,
Great game.
2014.
Yeah.
I think DS2 vanilla, even without Scholars of the First Sin, is underrated, and people try and use that argument that Miyazaki wasn't involved, that there's great incongruities here, where if you look at the map, like it's not great. Anyways, I spoke with Bob Olympus Iron about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And Ian McCarthy.
Ian
That's
McPop-Tart.
who I could think of off the top of my head right now.
So, and the question, sorry, so now that we established the golden era, sorry, man, what was the question?
Just name your favorite content creators in that era, and then if there was one of them that fell off, well, who would you want to see more content of? And also, would you consider Mathetics like golden era? Also, I would say
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Here's how I define it, and Omar's an exception because he never went to expos. We just always talked online.
Oh, so the expos classify you.
But
as,
and that's the thing. Like you take a look at like even my my videos, like Chelsea's videos. Like we always somehow ended up together at these expos. I would define that core group as golden era YouTube fitness.
Yeah. I was always a bit of an odd duck where I did not participate. It's like my high school graduation where I didn't like.
Was
go
it
to
because
that
of the
room.
Canada thing, or is it like
No, just that as my grade 2 teacher said something, and like I forget, it was a.
How do you remember that?
My report card, because I remember what my mother said.
Oh.
And it wrote something about Omar should pay, because I'd finished the work, and I was indifferent to some of the other things. I truth be told, did not like that teacher. And then I forget what the teacher said, but it did incense my mom, who knows me very well, and I'm the closest with my mom. But my mom said, Omar marches and will continue to march to the beat of his own drum. And she allowed me that latitude and freedom, and that's why I like to creatively express myself in a variety of different ways. I'm a counter puncher, fundamentally, in terms of what I do, in terms of the content and everything else. And while I enjoy, and I did go down 2013, to Texas,
Yep.
and then there's other trips and so on and so forth. I like my alone time. I like my quiet time. I like to be able to be separate enough to form my own independent thought, and I like to be selective when I choose to interact.
Yep.
All that is, so that's what that is, man. So who would I like to say? Who were some?
First of all, I like that saying, the beat of your own drum. That's a nice saying.
Yeah. It's
put that on a shirt.
yeah, rascal.
Yeah, put that on a rascal
upcoming
shirt.
flowers.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, favorite of, now I'm thinking about 2013 and who fell off. Well, I do think so. I would put from that era, which was not listed, but I put Candido only because the reason
Don't
why.
even get me started on Johnny,
Yeah,
dude.
because-
now I'm mad.
Yeah, because
Damn it.
2012, what happened?
I
About him
am
producing
literally
content, trying to get him to produce content.
I'm literally like trying to the door is like right here. I'm trying to like kick him through the door.
You should have had an episode with himself and me on just to talk
That would've been-
exclusively. He's gonna want to start talking
We
politics.
can't get him out of the house.
I literally
Hey.
need to drag him out of the house.
Johnny, if you're watching this,
And we know you are.
Yeah.
come
He is an
podcast.
observer to the sense, I forget what I mentioned in one video, Johnny, at like minute 9. And this was like, at that time I was uploading 5 videos a week. And this is after I think a plate fell on his foot. Anyways, and he said, "Hey, Omar," or whatever. He said, "Yeah, I saw like thanks or whatever." Like he's just that guy. And we actually had some very fruitful conversations. Like I have to give him nothing but respect, especially his content of that time, because it did feel new. And it felt great seeing him come on the scene. His technique was beautiful. He was very invested in it, my kind of shtick at that time. And just in general was like athletic aesthetic where, I wanted some sort of, we needed to find functional utility here, but I like to do some of the bigger movements. And I also did want to be Jack. And the two were not in contrast or competition with one another. And because at the time, Nico, let's say 2010, I wasn't very musculature, didn't have a lot of muscle. Still don't, but in 2012, it felt great to see someone else go on the scene, echo some similar things, and then almost legitimize them, with Johnny, just in terms of his content being so good. And so as soon as I saw him, I think he had 800 subscribers, and maybe he could tell the story. Like I reached out to him. 800? Yeah, I was and I was selective with who. There was a time where I collabed more and like so on and so forth. Anyways, and then he grew on his own. Like we did a collaboration, and it was just nice seeing that because I think here's another sound clip. If there was no Johnny Candido, I am not sure powerlifting would be where it is, and that is a very safe statement. Like that is not even anything that's provocative, to be honest.
He's like the godfather of tested powerlifting. Yeah, if you want, 100%. At the time, people don't realize this. Some of the people I knew at my gym and just in general, untested powerlifting was the de facto style that was popular. Mm-hmm. You had legends like Dan Green. Yeah. I had also my fellow gym enthusiast, Jeremy Hamilton. Yep. That won 2015. That was seminal for me. I met Andrei Milanichev because they were the strongest, and there was a strong disparity between the strongest untested powerlifters. At the time, you could, whatever weight class, it was at least 100 pounds, like a minimum. And now the talent pool, obviously, in tested power has grown so much, and and things have been standardized, and so on and so forth. So I'd say them. Someone that you didn't mention, but just some of the they put out content, but I'd say from the golden era, I was thinking of Brandon Campbell. I remember him. He was one of the first from 2011. I'm thinking about the people.
He comments on all of our stuff. It's so funny. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, yeah. And now he's just chilling. He's he's an OG, right?
He's still making content.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But someone I'd say on a personal note that I considered when I knew him a good friend, and I thought he was just a good human being, was actually someone more out in the woods in terms of what they did would be Big Play Ray. Is someone that no one really.
I have not heard that name in such a long time.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, Ray's a very good human. I won't reveal anything personally about him, but just because we got to talking and so forth. So that's less favorite content, but I'm just talking now some of the people, and then it actually was cool. You just have a real in-person conversation. Myself and Chris Jones got along. The first time we only communicated with each other a little bit, but in 2013, when we saw each other, we instantly hit it off. Mm-hmm. So I would say in terms of people to be brought back, well, maybe this is an interesting way to phrase it, but I do think that Massthetics had something at their peak where they were the original kind of shit posters in ways.
Yes.
That purposely were provocative.
Yes.
Did some things that honestly now are kind of cringe, but they had their own unique voice, and Simon and I have spoken a bunch, and I think I respect the most, Nico, people that brought new things to the space. I do think as an example, Chelsea Lifts was early. She's proto fitness and powerlifting, where she was creating that informative content, opening a pathway for more women to participate. When we started in 2011, Eric Helms knows the numbers he's citing on our podcast of the participation level, but without Chelsea Lifts, there's not other people getting into it. Make Squats is a little bit later, but Make Squats did a tremendous job too. So I need to think more on that, but it's those memories are interesting. And also, I'm not trying to cut this segment short whatsoever, but when I was on Don't Be Sour, it turned into a 2-hour reminiscing episode. Yeah. And I'm like, that is great. And that's cool. If that's what you feel bro, you are a relic from the past. I just want to reminisce.
He's a fossil. He's literally a fossil.
Totally fair. But yeah, that'd be my answer.
All right. Well, I'll have you know that I'm definitely making a clip of that to Johnny. And it's getting posted, and he's.
We're not even posting that to Instagram. We're just gonna text it to him.
I'm actually, no.
You're gonna have it on on Morse code to him. Yeah. The only way you can communicate with, as this bunker grows deeper and deeper, it becomes.
We actually have to deliver
harder.
it on an SD card through a pigeon.
Yeah.
It's funny because I still have his lens cap sitting on my desk, and
bro,
I just don't know. Every time I see him in the gym, I'm like, yo, Johnny, let's make it real. And he's like, dude, I'd love to. And then I'm like, when do you want to start posting your own content again? He's just like, I'm trying to get the program. I'm like, Johnny, where's the damn program? It's nuts.
Johnny's an interesting enigma because there's a lot more to that under the surface because a program is quite simple.
Yeah.
So why hasn't he? And there's a lot. It's complex.
He is the biggest perfectionist I know. Like nothing will get out if
It's
it's
a double-edged sword.
absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Like one of those types of people, and which is great because like he wants to give the best to his audience. It's just like everyone's been waiting literally like close to a decade for this.
Yeah.
Like this next program that he's gonna. All right, we're done talking about that. Moving on. All right, so your most recent video, I think you posted the one before today. It was about you. You brought in that doctor. You're talking about like
Milo Wolf.
Yeah,
Milo Wolf.
yeah, your partial reps, like in the bottom half of the squat, right?
Length and partials. Yeah.
Yeah, so I loved that video. I actually filmed. I'm Zach's videographer, also. You know that. So we filmed the video about him like talking about like how tall lifters shouldn't be squatting, and like a lot of people disagree with that. I kind of wanted to pick your brain about that because with the way that your friend Milo, yeah, the way that your friend Milo was talking, I feel like he'd be like one of those types of people that would say if you're a tall lifter, you shouldn't be back squatting.
No, Milo's like 6'3" and he back squats.
Yeah. Okay. Damn. Never mind then.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of want to
Milo's
see
a
like what you thought about that.
What?
Like the whole like like Athlete Next been saying like if you're tall, you shouldn't be squatting. It's not built
Athlete
for you.
Next is still alive. No. I'm just. Does he still
Jeff
have,
Cavalier,
does he still,
AthleteNext.com.
Not my boy.
Is he a lizard? He's a lizard.
Does Jeff Cavalier still eat one piece of carrot cake on his birthday or something? That is definitely not alarming. It's like that. No, that is the thing where like he eats so clean that he rewards himself. Do you guys remember the scene from Dodgeball?
Oh, wait.
We reference that movie all the time.
Where he hooks up Ben Stiller like
like,
electrodes. That relationship with food, like you would actually need like a nutritionist that is well qualified with this, like a certain, I would say the broad term of like eating issues, but not saying that is all. I'm not trying to insinuate, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So, before you get to that though, because I don't want to lose this now because that was a great point.
Great sidebar.
We're actually going to ask every single guest this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Marry, fuck, kill.
Who do
No.
Who do
It's
you-
a lot worse than that actually.
Who do you think in the fitness industry is a reptilian?
Like
That
blink
people-
sideways.
That people wouldn't expect.
Yeah, well, I mean, like,
there's some givens.
I mean,
Right?
Who's a given? Who's a given?
If I have to say it and you don't know, then you're in real trouble. When they take over, you're screwed. You're a bottom feeder, Nico. I'm sorry, bro.
but
Who would people not expect is a greater question.
Sure.
Yeah, let's give it. What are some answers you guys would
We
give?
said Greg Doucette in our last video.
No, yeah,
We said that he blinks sideways, so it's confirmed already.
I think he's more like a parrot, by the way, with his voice. Like if I had to, like, what was it? Is it Aladdin? Where you have the parrot, right? The voice.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to hear them next to one another. Like we need like.
It was
Sesame Pace
Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's tough.
Because you said Jeff Cavalier. It's like, yeah, he could be a lizard.
He's
Yeah.
definitely a lizard.
Yeah, I want to give
He
a
eats
hot,
carrot cake all the time.
I want to give a hot take. Yeah. So what are some traits of someone who's a reptilian? And are they part of the reptilian overlord, like the Illuminati?
Have you seen that video on the airplane that's been going around like mega viral?
No.
So like basically this woman was on a plane and she was
Yes. That thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
He's
the
not
thing.
real.
He's
Yeah.
not like literally like this dude is just chilling in a hoodie. Like, what the fuck what's wrong with this lady?
Yeah.
So like, I would just say that someone that's just so like, it doesn't act like a human. Like it's just so like
Oh my
odd.
God. That's actually a good amount. They're
It was
on
a
us.
cigar case.
The Aladdin
Nico, they're
box.
on to us, bro.
Yeah.
Be careful what you talk about.
Dude, that was it's
Epstein's
like some
Island.
Final
You
Destination.
might get like.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
actually. You gotta watch what I say about the reptilians now.
So if you're talking about someone who might have sociopathy, then where they are not a normal, like in terms of their behavior patterns, and they don't interact with people and see them as fellow human beings. So their own existence is the only form of reality that either A, they comprehend and understand, but two, that they believe to be true. I would say it's a lot of influencers, just in the sense that like the world revolves around them. They produce content. It's like how many really bad outside of fitness content creators legitimately think they are super important just because they have a following. I would say someone like, there's always the new crop that comes out. I'm trying to think of a juicy one. I don't have anyone at the top of my list, but Greg
I feel
thinks
like
it's a funny one.
I feel like Jeff's side would be one.
Jeff's a sad boy. He's like
We said
he's
Connor
like,
Murphy last one too.
they're sad. I mean, that's just like those you get into these.
I was like, what
bizarre-
kind of human drinks their own nut?
Yeah, we get into one that's ascended, brother. You get into these bizarre segments of the industry where if you try and explain it, like if I explain it to any of my friends, like my musician friends, like where do you start from so that it starts to make sense? It's like, you know how we viewed that documentary, Tiger King or the Tiger King, and it's utterly bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like just this inane stuff that's happening one after another. Like none of this makes sense. If you have to explain some aspects of the fitness industry, like with that Conor Murphy and like what they believe, and
yeah,
so I think you need. That's why I say you need like touch grass. Like you need to be tethered to some aspect of reality. Speak to real humans. Like it's gonna be okay, man. People, and what's so weird? It's like a form of second. What's it called? Second life. That
Second
video,
life. Yep.
Or like social media where you're putting up an avatar of yourself and you get to control the narrative. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
And so it basically becomes
you're basically
public
playing
theater.
Dark Souls too.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of another one, but Greg's a pretty.
He's
funny
gonna come
one.
back to that. He's
Yeah.
gonna come back to that answer.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of a conversation, he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I know who it is.
Squirrel.
All right, so we'll come
Yeah,
back
go.
to it. But
Yeah.
what
All right,
was
but
it?
now I'm changing the next topic because we're not talking about fitness right now. We're talking about what was announced on the news yesterday.
What was
announced?
Well, I was in Metroflex. I have no
I
idea.
basically died yesterday.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
find
so
out new information.
yesterday, the U.S. government announced like they discovered like fucking aliens, like actual aliens.
Oh, is that why Kate texted the
Yes,
group chat
like,
that this morning?
They got like in the live interview with like the fucking Homeland Security or some shit like that, and they were like basically just announcing that there were images, photographs of like this like bizarre object, and then there was like an object that landed somewhere off of the U.S. and it didn't look like humanoid or human-like or anything like that, and basically from there
The government releases this information.
the government never releases this information. So they publicly said that it wasn't human
Yeah.
in the interview. And I don't know what.
I don't know if I can be shocked about that because, like, we're not. This is the way that my dad puts it. We're not the only assholes in the universe.
But like, why would they come here though? Why the fuck would anyone want to come here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're something special.
No, we're not.
All right.
No, we're not. We have guys that drink their own nut and lizards here.
The lizards are the aliens.
Oh my god.
And now it's their time to invade. That's why the cigar box fell. That was the first sign,
That
bro.
was a sign. We think it's like an interstellar moment where something deep and profound, like someone's trying to communicate with us to say, stop mentioning the reptilian overlords, you know, kind of like
All of a sudden, we hear someone screaming outside.
Yeah.
JoJo's like hanging from the ceiling.
don't let me leave, bro.
JoJo's a reptilian.
Oh. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
I have no reaction to that because I have.
You know aliens are real, right?
They have to be. I mean, like,
Well, you know about the Fermi's paradox, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is it? Just so
I don't personally.
So go ahead, Nico.
What?
Explain
Fermi's
it.
paradox.
Explain it.
I don't even know how to begin with that. Like,
Go ahead and I'll pick it up, but go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, you do it.
So Fermi's paradox is essentially the idea that if there is intelligent life in the universe, why have they not contacted us, or why have we not been in contact with them?
Yeah, that's why I brought it
especially
up.
when you start doing calculations. So if you have faster than light travel, so let's say either through like you could establish like a wormhole or like a black, like just various mechanisms in order to bend time and space that probably like theoretically it can be done at some point in the future. To traverse and let's say the distances continue to get greater, right? So from our planet to the moon, our planet to another planet, from our planet to another solar system, from our solar system now to another solar system that's further in the galaxy, from one point in this galaxy to another galaxy, the lengths keep expanding. But nonetheless, if one can eclipse faster than the limitation of light, the constant that is light, and travel faster than light, there are all these easy calculations to do that if you had an advanced civilization, it wouldn't take long to colonize, to use that word, or visit the entirety of our galaxy. And considering the plethora of planets that exist in this galaxy or the universe, we're talking billions upon billions, I think in the galaxy, trillions upon trillions in the entirety of the universe, and the necessary conditions of life that keep expanding. So we thought it could only be like carbon-based life forms, but anyways, it keeps expanding. We think there are not only on Mars, but there's a few other. I think it's Titan. There's one, anyways, that has water in our solar system that could be a place where there is life. not saying there's intelligent life, but the necessary conditions in order to have intelligent life in, let's say, our cluster around our solar system is high. The necessary conditions in the galaxy, it's dramatically high. And we now exist, 12 billion years after the universe first started with the Big Bang. So with all these variables at play, considering that life it seems like it can happen and can form, and we have evidence of life outside of our planet, like we're talking like very basic things, but nonetheless, like, it can evolve. Why have we not been contacted? And so there's a couple different thoughts behind why. One that's being put forth now, obviously, is that, two that probably make the most amount of sense, is that as we evolved and as we currently are, if we look at our nearest relatives like chimpanzees and so on and so forth and how we view them, or if you keep going down that ladder, how we view ants is potentially how, higher intelligent species, aliens, would view us if they visited us. I would say probably like it's a good idea, one, not to not interact with us, but the idea that we're so volatile, think of how close humanity has come to ending itself. In order to traverse the galaxy or the stars to that level, there's a need for a certain level of stability that we have never known. So maybe we're classified as a type of species by if there are observers or whatnot, where we're a test, and the idea of whether or not we're going to make it beyond our solar system, there's like a survival mechanism, the survival of the fittest, right? An adaptation to a certain space. That once we reach a certain point, that maybe they've just been hiding in quotations the whole time. Another one would be the idea that once you develop a certain level of technology, you can transcend kind of our time and space, like the confines, the limitations, perhaps. Because here's the thing. The technological revolutions that will happen, we can't even potentially fathom them if they were to take place like 1,000 years from now. If you were to interview someone, the most intelligent people on the planet 2,000 years ago, and try and extrapolate it 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, the technology creates the new like tapestry for everyone's imagination. Anyway, so all that to say that we might be thinking about it the wrong way. Like there's even now theories about black holes, and where like the information is not lost, and where it could then exit back out, and maybe that was the start of a Big Bang. Anyways, all that to say that with all these things at play, it's mighty curious that it seems like the likelihood of life is very high, but we have not, to our best knowledge, had communication with any higher life form. And it is the position of a lot of extremely intelligent physicists that we should not try and communicate or like send out any radio waves or whatnot, because we're not at a position right now to even understand anything.
I feel like that there is that very, very, and when I say very, very small percentage of humans that are already actively in contact with this extraterrestrial life, and now it's like it's almost
you
like,
boys do think that we've made contact, they're communicating with a select few? Is that like obviously?
Well, I'm saying this has probably been going on for years. It's not, and it's only recently that they're publicizing it, because it's like, how much more can we cover it up? Like everybody already knows, you know. So why not just rip the Band-Aid off? It's like, hey, we're not the only ones here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think they're just hiding it. They've been hiding for a long time.
A really good dystopian graphic novel, a series is called Transmetropolitan, and written by Warren Ellis. And in it, he puts forth, which I think is one of the most interesting ideas, that they end up discovering on the moon the existence of intelligent life, of an alien species. But with how fast, like the media 100 years from now, because this is now, we're trying to once again extrapolate it into the future, everyone just becomes bored. It's another fashion trend. We think it's going to be groundbreaking. We think it's going to spur us forth towards the stars again, where we visit the moon. And we try and make, interplanetary travel like to Mars. But everyone just becomes bored. It just becomes, it's another factoid that is part of our normal existence that we accept. So I think that's the even more interesting one, is like, how will humans, with our curiosity, react to it? Will it actually produce a seismic change in our civilization, or is it something that once we find out, we're like, cool?
Yeah, because once they broke it, like, wouldn't you expect there to be like chaos?
Yeah,
breaking out everywhere.
I would need to see how they did, and to what level, and everything else.
I knew I asked the right person about this. I knew it.
Say again?
I knew I asked the right person about the aliens. God.
I was curious why Kate said that this morning.
Yeah, no. So yeah, in that whole interview, like the guy that was talking about how the aliens were discovered, were just like, he sounded pretty scared too. It was like, yeah, he was like, he was like stuttering and stuff, and saying that the images showing like non-human like creatures.
Wait, so are these images public?
No, and like they were like not saying other, like they were hiding a lot of information also.
No.
Like he was like, I can't say this due to like or to the public or anything like that. And I'm like, all right, like why would you even bring it up if you can't show us everything that you're supposed to, you know? That just makes me think. I'm like, what else could they be hiding from us?
A lot. I mean, for sure. Like not
Conspiracy theories
not,
right now.
Not like I mean, in terms of like what governments around the world do in terms of their military excursions, diplomacy, many other like that.
I mean,
that's
dude,
all.
there's probably shit going on like
Dude,
Antarctica.
Everyone
that
in the
we
government's
haven't-
probably a reptilian at this point.
Have
I
you
mean, that's
watched-
the original conspiracy theory.
Yep.
You know, The Thing by John Carpenter is in fact a documentary. There was an older form of life that's here that could end our planet, and it is in Antarctica.
Have you ever seen or played Gears of War?
No.
God damn, you played PlayStation growing up. So, anyways, like the way that this I'm talking about this. I don't care.
Go for it, man.
I'm going for it. So the way that the Gears of War lore goes, it's like there's this event, like kind of like the Big Bang, but it's like doomsday for planet Earth. It's the day that the pollution of the planet just pisses off whoever's living on the inside of it. There's like this whole race living inside of the planet.
Yep.
And this doomsday, like it caused them to come out. It's called Resurgence Day, and they come out of the planet and just fucking murder the entire population. Besides like the government and like people that are strong enough to protect themselves.
Why wouldn't
And-
they murder the government? That's like the
they're
first thing
not
you
strong
take-
enough to yet. That's why.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're because the government's protected by
Got it,
like
got
all
it.
the power.
Okay.
So basically, what's stopping like why? I feel like that could happen to us too because like we don't know like if
Yeah.
there's like something like that in Earth, watching Earth, something like that. So I just feel like the government is just hiding so much from us that like if something like that happened, like we'd be like screwed.
I am curious though, like with all these things that they're hiding from us, how did they even think of doing all this stuff? Like
Don't
hiding things under the ice and like, oh, like we've been in contact with like civilization. Like I don't know. It's
Dude, they probably are fucking hiding Megatron right now.
that's what's in Antarctica.
Yeah,
Optimus Prime.
Yeah, dude. Like it's just scary. It was like they're saying that they have these pictures of like very like HD photos of aliens and they're not showing. I'm like, all right, like why would you even say that if you know it's just gonna stir people up?
It's actually AI
That's
generated.
propaganda. It's AI yeah, probably.
That's saying I hit a squat PR. I didn't record it, but just trust me.
Trust me,
Like,
bro.
Pretty much what it is.
Source, trust me, bro.
Aliens.
All right, enough tangent. Let's go back to what we're actually.
That was a good tangent.
You are a weenie.
Yeah. You are a weenie.
All right. I want your opinion on this. Has powerlifting reached its peak in terms of popularity?
He's very passionate about this.
We give a short answer that define peak and define powerlifting.
Well, this is Tim's idea, so Tim, take it away.
So powerlifting in terms of the general population of this, like the people that participate in the sport, do you believe that's stunted? And it's not
The
gonna.
amount of people participating.
Yeah, just
actually compete, like not doing.
No,
the
like
field.
actual
No.
competitors.
No.
And you so you don't think it's gonna grow anymore?
No. I don't think it's stunted.
Okay.
I think that could still grow. For
I don't
sure.
either.
So don't you think that if that population continues to grow, that as a byproduct, the sport itself will eclipse what it currently is, or no?
No, because you always need spectators to make a sport, and powerlifting doesn't have spectators. Powerlifting has a bunch of enthusiasts that participate in it, myself being one of them that actively enjoys watching. Like I was at Sheffield recently. I think one of the inherent limitations of powerlifting is that it's not a spectator-friendly sport, especially compared, these are all my personal opinions, to other strength sports. So like weightlifting, there's a dynamic component that is volatility, right? Is he or she going to make the lift? Well, in powerlifting, more or less, unless you really screwed your shit up, like within a narrow band, your coach for your rival can like kind of see where you're at, and it'll come down to the last few movements. So anything that's why do people watch sports? That's a better question. There's many different answers. But one, I would think it's reaching into the unknown. It's that dynamic volatility that excites people. They don't know what's going to happen. In powerlifting, you know a lot of what's going to happen. So the short answer is, yeah, weightlifting, strong man, strong woman. I think it's very exciting. I think especially outside of North America, because there's a lag, much like there was a musical lag before, digital music, like the internet, the easy proliferation of music, where you see what they call secondary markets, so essentially countries that are non-English speaking, so other parts of Europe, like South America, Japan. There's a reason why Cheap Trick's live at Budokan did so well in Japan and did very mediocre in America because they were early entrant there, entrant into that market. So I think already you can make a strong argument, Tim, that outside of North America, that powerlifting as a sport and people's general interest is growing. You have, I believe, there's like a Korean social media person where USAPL, the guy was chronicling it, but that was like a big deal, and he was infusing. It is so. A lot of powerlifters, I think, don't realize this because you're not a content creator, and this is like the hot take, is that powerlifting is the beneficiary of the greater space.
Yep.
The greater space gives it juice that allows it to exist. It's the funnel, and like in any marketing form, when the top of the funnel narrows, then there will be less overall interest. But is there enough interest within the community to sustain itself? Well, we need to answer the question of like, what is the community? How do you define sustain yourself? And what do we want out of it? Like, do we want payouts of like $500,000 for someone to win? Like, these are just the questions, right?
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, where the money is.
So, right. And so my answer to that is that I think the general interest in the fitness space for powerlifting in North America has very likely, at least in the next handful of years, reached its peak. I think overall participation is not at its peak for sure, and I think the two are related, but they're different conversations.
Got it. Okay. So I've actually talked to Nico about this. So do you believe that it will continue to grow? The more bigger named influencers participate in the sport, because you take Russ for example. Will powerlifting slowly start to die out the second he stops competing?
Yeah. No. When Russ stops competing, it'll have a bit of an impact, but I don't think it'll have a greater impact.
So it's pretty much inevitable that it's eventually just going to peak and then eventually.
Well, I think because like anything else, I think there's more people, so there's many different variables we'd have to take a look at. I think we'd have to take a look at the average. How many people are just lifting in gyms these days, right? Like comparative to before. How many people are doing barbell-based movements? Then how many people are doing like some form of squat, bench, deadlift variation within their programming? But I think fundamentally, because we have to evaluate why did powerlifting grow, and I think there are some answers that we can derive from that, and that will be informative in terms of this. The first would be that powerlifting was relatable at its inception when it became more popular. So not from its actual inception, like in the 50s or 60s or 70s. Like I went recently to the Stark Center for part of the documentary that we're doing where, shout out to Dr. Connor Heffernan, where he gave this great, like recounting, no one, like if I mention Larry Pacifico, do we know Larry Pacific, like a legend of the sport, right? Like there are more strong lifters in the 70s and 80s that either enhance or not enhance that did feats of strength that are still incredibly impressive, but just because either judging standards or there's no video evidence, but there were people that were, trustworthy there to cite it, or also the whole idea that you use single ply. Anyways, all that to say that there was a growth from powerlifting being its own hyper niche, and so like Westside and everything else, to it then being communicated to a greater space. So I would say like Candido, myself, other people, like just like in YouTube fitness. Well, once people start seeing it, it's like, well, why do people enjoy it? Well, at the time, the strength levels were somewhat relatable. You can start deadlifting, and you very quickly, like Joseph, he could deadlift 500 pounds. And there's an empowering component behind that. Well, now the people that are at the top, so Candido was relatable in the sense that he looked like someone that could be anyone else in the gym, but he's lifting weights that you couldn't even believe. So it made you want to pursue it too, because there was that ephemeral question, like how strong can you get? And you don't know because the standards continue to lift. And it's like any start of a mass adoption of a trend, that's what occurs. And that time is, just a message in the bottle. It has happened. It's a piece in the sand. It's somewhere lying there on the shore that you cannot get back. So once you open that Pandora's box, you cannot get it again. And once that happens, you get this huge infusion, because in fitness in general, I think people are always looking for novelty. It was that thing.
Yep.
You're not that guy, pal. It was that guy. And so that, and I feel just because, I've made in my career like over 1,300, like a lot of videos, and it's accrued a long. And when I was plugged in like Candido, that's why I was like, it would be great to have someone like a Candido out. Like these individuals have interacted with the space on such a high level for so long that their intuition in terms of where it's going in ways is pretty good. Like, you see, and that's what's interesting by Johnny sitting himself out. Then I think the further removed you get, the less you're on the pulse. But all that to say, Tim, I don't think it will ever reach the point once again that it had before, at least in the foreseeable future. Trend might die out where people now, like on TikTok and so forth, visual medium, people want to build muscle. Once again, it's considered cool because they've maxed out on their lifts and they're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Now, if we're talking about the next generation, so like a Lex Little or like a Max Taylor who used to do powerlifting, and now Max in particular, he's preparing for like a bodybuilding show. If they kept infusing themselves into the sport, could it help it grow somewhat? But I think there's few things, it's right time and circumstance, that would really catapult it again to the next level. But even if we got a lot of people that were like on a cursory level interested, all the way interested, would it really take it to the next level so you get massive payouts? That I am not sure. I actually think guys like Lex, like I remember his comments from 7 years ago. You know, he grew up watching our content, and so he got into powerlifting. But his audience is watching him, and he's doing it like kind of like he's about, like he liked it. He did some of the main movements, and now he's moving on, and he's moving on early. So it's like that audience is not sticking around. So he was a response to what came before him, and his audience is a response to him. And so it's the next line or the next chain in that link.
They're gonna come back to powerlifting at the end of the day. You know, like it's like you've been talking about Ronnie before too, like how
Big Ron.
he just loves training hard. You know, like, and
Yeah.
I'm sure like Lex still loves doing the powerlifting movements, and like he's always gonna come back to that if he ever decides to. You know, like I just feel like it's just like phases with his own training and social media. So like he sees a trend going on like social media, and then he's gonna follow that trend like what everyone's doing. So I just think everyone's gonna come back because it's one of the he fell in love with it, you know, like just.
I guess it's more that we're never going to see a massive spike like we did between like we'll say 2014 and 2018.
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
And there is going to be that slow, steady growth, but we're just never going to see that steep increase.
You would think the standard would like do that, right? Like Jesus squatting fucking 1,000 pounds at like 23 years old, like that would be like
Would do what, Nico?
like have that spike in.
For people want it? Well, I think it's the opposite, because if I picked up a bar to deadlift in 2013, it was impressive to deadlift 500 pounds. You could probably deadlift 500 pounds. So it's more relatability for certain sports when it's not a spectator-friendly sport. It relies upon participants. Participants need to be given an incentive to do the damn thing. So they need to think that they can do it. And I think the more it becomes like a freak show, like meaning like people on the, outlier spectrum where they're so strong, it's like, will I ever get that strong? Not to doubt yourself, but you're not tethered to, again, any aspect of reality. I think it doesn't push them away, but it makes it a sport and not like an event you want.
I actually didn't expect you to say that. I thought you would agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. That's sure we're good.
Give me, Nico. What's your hottest? Just with the time we have, what is your? You have a bunch of questions. What's like one of your hot questions? Give me that, bro. Don't tell me that OHP was the hot. I mean, you ask. I am enjoying this. I am happy to be on. You give me any question you want.
Actually, something that still pisses you off to this day. Tell us a story about how you fucked up sending Arnold Schwarzenegger a shirt.
Yeah. No, I'm not mad about it. Like I'm just like.
Oh, okay. Because like every time we talk about it, it's like I could have done that.
Yeah, it's more like I think that is representative of like who I am and how I participate. Where anyone else I think would not have fumbled the bag, but I did. And it's fun. Like it's one of those things where. The ultimate success, so some people rely upon particular moments that will then, make them go viral or this and that. And I think like something needs to be fundamentally sound. Like a theorem, when you're constructing it, it needs to test out. You need to test it and test it again, and it need to be proven to be true, to be valid. And so the short story about that is there was a trainer, I think his name is Mike, who bought a lot of Rascal clothing that lifted at Gold's Gym. He's a personal trainer there. Arnold saw one of his shirts one day. He's wearing a Power Hercules shirt, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "That's a really cool shirt." Anyways, and then he met. He's like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Omar, like Arnold was, he said that's a cool shirt." And I actually know Arnold's like social media manager, someone that helped with like some of the emails. Anyways, not to get into too much private information, so I got it in. I got his address, and I was told by go ahead and send it. And this is actually around 2020.
So it's kind of early Rascal here.
So Rascal started in 2013, but when like I decided to come back to Nico, like in January 2020, 100%.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very interesting, but at the time I was a bit on my own odyssey in terms of I was separated from like content. I was really enjoying my alone time, like the novels I was reading, the music I was playing, like everything else, the films I was watching. That I understood that it was important to do, but it wasn't something I leapt at, and it was something that was a finite window where I definitely should have. But I was in ways, and it's a constant struggle, I think, for any like entrepreneur. I wouldn't say over encumbered, but Rascal was growing at such a fast rate that I knew was an opportunity, but I knew there was some. It was growing so fast that I was wearing many different hats, and it was something that was cool to do. But I also knew in terms of the probability of something checking out would be low. And I'm that person that unless someone asks for something directly, I don't have any ask. Like I do not put myself in a position where someone else, where I feel like it could be disrespectful, where you always, it's like, it's too transactional. Like I'd rather like, oh, you respect it. Like we could talk about that. I really appreciate it. Like Hugh Jackman, when he bought our shirt, like it means a lot, right? It means a lot when he's wearing it, like the Wolverine.
You're going down my list. You already said that already too.
Jared Leto, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it means a lot when I see Hugh because I respect Hugh as an actor, like his contributions, like his, some of his philanthropy that I see, just some of those things. But I don't like things being transactional. I think fundamentally why I like chose not to do it, especially Tim, because I think, there's a corrosive element to all social media where then you start viewing people as numbers. And that's why I brought up like Jesse James, and it's not an attack necessarily on him. He is an avatar of a certain style and a certain train of thought. And I think that's train of thought's corrosive as it currently is. And you never know, like again, you want to see the cringiest shit. Like I still have, and that's why I like doing this. Some I've unlisted a bunch because like they're just flat out incorrect. It's like I don't want someone comes to one, you're not going to watch a video that's old, and you go back and see the older videos, and it's like there's some real bad shit.
You should do a react video on that. Yeah. Just watch all of your old stuff one day and just like, oh my god, what are they doing?
Yeah. I will it's funny, Nico. I watch sometimes because my brother helped me out. He's a musician, but he was like, yeah, man, like what you want me to hold it? Like what do you want? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm working as a trainer. Like so he held it, but we had this creativity. It's kind of like maybe Joseph and his brother Drew were just very tight. Where I had so much fun making them that I actually, not even like a guilty pleasure, but like the information shit, and this kid's real loud and he's spastic, but there's a kernel of something there, and I see that and I'm like, I get it. Like I get, and I don't want to say I'm like proud of my younger, like, cause I don't like to be too boastful, but I see I'm like, okay. So actually I watch, like I say, every few years, there's a few, like I have that white spandex shirt that I come back to,
yeah.
And I'm like, I am that. Like who else? Like that's why with Larry Wheels in 2018, I think you need to have a certain level of humility, but also not take yourself so seriously when he's flexing. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's such a god. And like his manager literally was saying, like his manager's an interesting guy, where he's like, take your shirt off, Larry. And Larry took his shirt off. And he started posing. It's like, yeah, you're a tough guy. No one wants to pose next to you. You're such a big, tough guy, muscular guy. And he kept saying like those things, like who wants to challenge him? Like, that's kind of bizarre. And I'm like, to make it less bizarre, let me take my shirt off. And I said, oh, you think he's muscular? I'm joking, like, bro, I'm like 180 pounds. He's like 270. But I think the idea of not being afraid of engaging in some of these things and realizing like you can't take yourself too seriously, because then it becomes too constructed, your personality, and then you become too egoed out, and then you really start thinking your shit don't stink. So yeah, the live react would be funny.
Fuck yeah. One last thing before we wrap this up.
No shit. Let's go.
If you're comfortable,
I survived. Yeah, man. I survived the gauntlet.
Yeah, honestly.
Let's go, Nico.
So we mentioned Rascal a bit.
That shit's boring. I love it. I mean, no. Let's go. No, Nico.
No.
I've enjoyed every single question.
Yeah. So I just want to talk to you about Rascal because it arguably has blown up the past like 3-4 years. So that's been awesome to see. Like I told Tim the other day, like I live in an apartment complex down the road from the gym, and I was walking around, and like at the park, this dude's wearing what's that gray and purple shirt again that I keep talking about? Oh, that one. Yeah, I was literally wearing that.
The one that I'm wearing.
Yeah, I was wearing that same exact shirt, and like that Spider-Man movie just pointed at each other. Dude, I looked at him and I didn't say anything. He was like, "What do you want with me?" And then I'm like, he's like, "Oh, Rascal, dude, that's awesome." And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's just so fucking weird." But yeah, it's just like that. It's crazy that I'm like walking around like seeing people wearing your shirts, and it's just crazy. I'm like, I want to kind of pick your brain. I'm like, what's like the most frustrating thing about like having a company scale up that size so fast? Like, is there anything that like grinds your gears or like makes you fucking mad? Like, what do you want to let out? Like, it's like a therapy. Okay.
I'm the problem.
Yeah, he's the problem.
Like we said at the beginning, like we said at the beginning, this is actually my exit interview, and
Well,
I'm
Tim,
gone.
Tim,
like you're
Tim.
taking over the warehouse after this
God.
episode.
Tim, don't you think you just have so many other opportunities you could pursue? Like you are you're someone with a diverse skill set, and I just think that like staying here might be a limitation for you.
What an easy way of putting it. That was a good way of putting it.
And then when they say no, I want to stay, I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No, like you're seriously better elsewhere.
But trust me.
Get out.
I'd say I would consider myself a creative person. So that's the thing that I enjoy the most. And I would not consider myself a business-oriented person. Numbers I'm really good with, like in school, actually, like math was my subject. So I'm like that stuff's cool, and that's why we could calculate like the restocks or what we need, or even like my intuition in terms of what will sell. We test it because you once again need to calibrate it, but like I kind of know what's a hit and what's not a hit. So like that part's cool. So it's not the logistics, it's all the little aspects that obviously no one tells you about, but some people are better equipped for that they actually enjoy. Like some people enjoy being a boss. You know, some people enjoy the concept that I own a company. Like the thing I enjoy the most is that there is a cohesive vision that is contrary to a lot of different aspects of the fitness space that is now being disseminated in an authentic way to people that want to purchase it and they want to identify with. And so they're like subversive cultural memes. So that stuff I love, like the coming up with the designs, the content creation, the video production stuff. But Nico, it's every like aspect that other people, and eventually it will be that get to that point where someone else will handle those things, where I could do it, I'm not enthused by it, and it's not something that again, like I said, if you listen to a lot of business oriented podcasts, and maybe they'll frame it this way, like, oh, like if you don't want it bad enough or this or that, but some people like to they vie for power, they covet it, like they want it, and I think it's uninteresting. You know, I think it actually in ways the power that you seek changes you more than you realize it, and then you become, as I've seen, maybe like an empty, hollow vessel of yourself. So I think it's like trying to stay human, trying to interact with people, as people, and trying to have enough time to do everything else, and like do right by people, do right by the company, do the best possible job, and check and fill out every single thing that needs to get done. But there's a lot of like granular aspects that are just like I find very boring.
You know what you mentioned before about like Alan having like that voice of his media? I feel like I could say the same thing about you with like your clothing that you release, because like everything that you release, like it just like that's something Omar would make. Like the pants, for example, like the zebra pants that I wear all the time, like those are like one of my favorite pieces that you have, and like I'm like, of course he made these. Like this is something that he would totally wear and like totally make. So it's just like awesome to see like everything that you produce is like something that like it came out of your own fucking brain. Like I hate the fact that when people like companies like just design stuff like that they wouldn't even wear, you know? Like
I mean
that's something that would make me angry, you know?
Yeah, think about that, bro. Yeah. How good is this podcast, bro? I get to go in, she'll have a good time, answer these questions. Nico's promoting like Rascal. Are you kidding me? I don't have to say anything. Like
it's a paid ad, guys.
Yeah,
it's something a bit underneath the table.
You get whatever you want, bro. Damn. It was the aliens that told us. It was that. Yeah,
it was the box.
You were going another way, Nico, and we're like getting deep, and it was like going cool, and then and you're like, all right, let's just get back. So fitness content creation over. Damn, they may have got it, folks. They may have got a Nico.
I think every thumbnail needs a reptilian in it, Tim.
There you go.
That's our shtick. That's what we're gonna do now.
Brady set with the reptilian eyes.
Yeah, literally.
Now to end this, we're going to be asking all of our guests one thing. It doesn't even have to be fitness related, clothing related, whatever. What is one thing in your life that
Boutte.
All right. That's the episode.
No.
What is the one thing in your day-to-day life that pisses you off the most? What gets you just
besides
mad?
Tim?
Besides me.
You know what's super sad? Like, it has taken me this long. Now I'm mad to realize trying to not get the guests like riled up or upset, but the idea like we're talking about like this and that. Man, I gotta be honest. After when I was at Ventureflex and like some of those conversations about people and this and that, like I think it's important to vocalize things that you're feeling. I think it's important to be in touch with yourself, have like internally audit what you're doing. There's nothing in my day to day. I think The only thing perhaps that I could say, I have problems. I don't have insomnia, but I do have some issues with sleep. I have like just minor medical stuff where like my eyes, basically I have a recurrent corneal erosion, which means that my eyes are like so dry. They have to put an ointment, as Tim knows, in the eye. Anyway, so sometimes I could like wake up and my eyelid will literally scratch my cornea. And so, anyways, my sleep isn't sometimes the best, and it is something that I think is detrimental to my overall progress. It's fine. But with that being said, if I have to get up early for a place, I like having freedom of time. I've worked as a personal trainer for quite some time. I don't like to get up early when I don't have to, which is why like today when I was texting Eric, guys, I'm like, we've been working 4 days. I'm like, I'm going to sleep in. Well, I got up at 8:30 still. But like just like I wanted that freedom to like when I chose to get up. And so I guess what would grind my gears would be if I have a few days of sleep deprivation in a row, then you start getting a little bit more irritated.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I got to do this. Would be like a thing that it doesn't really happen. Like I don't have to. There's not many things like I'm beholden to, but that I can think off the top of my head.
I love how he's smiling as he's saying, "It's like, yeah, I'm so mad right now."
Tim's like, "What a benign, like,
Yeah, what a benign
problem to bring up." Yeah.
I thought he was just gonna like fuck this guy, pisses me. It's like, no, it's fine.
Well, you do have better opportunities elsewhere, and you know that, right? We planted that seed.
All I know is that Omar still hasn't answered one question that I asked him.
Oh, what is it? Wait, let's go back.
He didn't tell us yet who he thinks is a reptilian.
Man, I didn't even. Man,
we're not leaving. We're not ending this
Good,
episode
okay.
until you think
Let's
of one
let's
person that is a reptilian.
So you said
See, the reason I said Greg is because
Blaha would be the reptilian hunter. For the record. So that's the thing too. Like sometimes you could be like not even chaotic good or neutral, but like you indirectly do something that's a public good. But like, are you a good human being? Questionable. Yeah. He's a hunter. Who would be a reptile? Well, I could give a boring one, bro. I'd be like V-Shred. You know?
V-Shred, dude.
But
I thought he was just gonna say Jesse. I'm like, Jesse. Yeah, Jesse's a freaking reptilian.
Yeah, he's a sad boy that probably didn't get enough love as a child. Like that's more accurate. Like daddy didn't love you, now you seek the validation of others as a common. Like I'm not trying to psychoanalyze anyone. But
see, that's what Jesse gets him mad. That's what it is.
I will just say that one of my two parents did psychiatric assessments for the court, and I've never met someone that's more perceptive of human beings. I do not have that level. Because once again, we bring up the whole concept, I know we're wrapping up, of calibration. If you test out an idea, like I think if this event happens to you, this is how you'll react. Well, over time, as you start getting predictive, you see whether or not this will hold true, and you start noticing different core groups of patterns of behaviors, and then you could postulate why this is the case. And anyways, with that, I actually feel like comfortable not saying he's like, I have a great relationship. Well, anyways, that's fine. It was just shooting the shit. But yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, unfortunately, he's not a reptilian. He'd be the first person to sell out humanity, though. Like, the reptilian overlords would be like, we need 6 humans only for our experiments. I'll kill everyone right here.
He ends up vlogging the entire experience.
Literally, right? Yeah. What's up, YouTube?
Yeah. So I'm here with the reptilian overlords today.
Yeah.
Starts rubbing his head against them, too. And shit.
Oh, yeah.
That's the title of the video. Jesse James West is a reptilian.
Well, that's what we're going to do, because we titled our last episode, Greg Doucette is a lizard.
I love it. Yeah. How did it do, by the way? Good?
Yeah, it did really good.
Nice. And next one's going to be like Jesse James West is a gecko or some shit like that.
I like it. That's actually funny. So you guys
people eventually pick up on it. It's like, what is up with them and reptiles?
You guys work well together. So that's good. See, that's creative.
Yeah.
No.
The next one is a Komodo dragon, dude.
We actually get contacted by the reptilian overlords.
Oh,
they're the next guest on the podcast.
Who could you fucking imagine?
So I'm just saying, planting the seed. Maybe for like April Fools, you should have an episode where the person you blur out and you modulate their voice, and it's like, we found the reptilian overlord, and you interview them. Like, come on.
Don't be surprised by just coming with a reptile mask.
I was actually just thinking that. So we have, and I know we're going off on a tangent. We have this weird idea that we're eventually going to get to a point where we just come up randomly dressed and not even tell the other person. Like I was saying,
H2H, we kind of used to do that.
I'll come in dressed up as like a plague doctor or something, like full mask and everything. He's going to become dressed up as a reptile. No one's going to know.
I'm going to do the voice changer too the entire time, the entire episode.
Good modulator.
But Omar, thank you so much for deciding to give us your time, because I know you're a very, very busy man. Where can people find you? Everybody knows who he is.
on the
Let's just get
on the
over.
stimmed out,
let's just
timmed
get-
out. No,
let's just get that clear. If
Blessing.
you don't know who he is, there's something wrong with you.
blessings on Tim, where it's like it's like he's aged out of this. It's like that new generation. They're like,
This guy's
"Who?"
fucked up, man.
Yeah.
He's fucked up.
Damn, I had to do me dirty like that. No, man, I had a great time. You can find me on the Stimmed Out, Timmed Out podcast every single insert date here.
Nico.
They can find me at Instagram at Candido Training HQ.
Candido Training HQ.
HQ.
What I really loved about it, like every single time he closed, I think he got it from you actually. Every time he said like peace at the end.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it like. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Cool. I wanted obviously I was the one. Let the record reflect. Like we've been feeling busy and all this stuff. I was like, hey, am I going to be on the podcast? He's like, oh no, we definitely. Tim's like, no, we definitely want to have you. I was like, oh okay. But I said, yeah, I think it could like get Johnny on. Like I think it'd be a riot to have Johnny on.
I'm mad now that Johnny's not here.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of mad,
Yeah.
that's been Now I'm Mad.
Nah, man.